To have a good enemy, choose a friend. He knows where to strike. Fear from friends than from enemies. Friends will betray you more quickly. But hire a former enemy and he will be more loyal than a friend, because he has more to prove. If you have no enemies, find a way to make them.
But why shouldn't I trust my friends? I love them, they love me. They help me in need.
Okay, let's clear it with short story. In the mid-9th century, a young man named Michael III took over the throne of the Byzantine Empire.
I am now a young, inexperienced ruler, surrounded by betrayers, murderers, and profligates. I need someone I could trust as my counselor.
And his thoughts turned to Basilius, his best friend.
But Basilius has no experience. But he had proven his love and gratitude time and again.
They had met a few years before, when Michael had been visiting the stables. Suddenly a wild horse got loose. Basilius had saved Michael's life. Michael was impressed and he promoted Basilius immediately from horse trainer to head of stables. So, Michael chose Basilius for counselor, ignoring all other skilled relatives.
This power is so great. I want more. But that Bardas won't let this happen.
Bardas was Michael's uncle.
Oh, mighty lord, Bardas is now head of army. And according to my sources, he is planning to move you out of his way. Before he executes his plan, let's clear him out.
During a horse race, Basilius caught Bardas in the crowd and stabbed him to death. Soon after,
Oh lord, if other will handle this army head's position, then their head will get corrupted. Let me handle this.
This was granted. Now Basilius's power and wealth only grew. But, a few years later,
You have borrowed so much money from me these years. Return me some, I have to use to run my empire. Because our financial condition is not so good.
I have money, but I won't give it you.
the former stable boy had more money, more allies in the army, and in the end more power than the emperor himself. A few weeks later, after a night of heavy drinking, Michael awoke to find himself surrounded by soldiers. Basilius watched as they stabbed the emperor to death. Then, after proclaiming himself emperor, he rode his horse through the streets of Byzantium. Michael thought Basilius will serve him with the sense of gratitude. He had created a monster. He had allowed a man to see power up close, a man who then wanted more. At Michael's moment of realization, he could still have saved his own life.
But friendship and love blind every man.
Nobody believes a friend can betray. And Michael went on disbelieving until the day his head ended up on a pike.
Lord, protect me from my friends. I can take care of my enemies. But how to use enemies for my benefit?
Let's clarify this concept too with story. In AD 959, General Chao Kaiyan became Emperor Sung.
I know the probability that within a year or two I will be murdered. How can I break the pattern?
Sung ordered a banquet to celebrate the new dynasty, and invited the most powerful commanders in the army. After they had drunk much wine, he dismissed the guards. They thought he will murder them in one fell swoop.
The whole day is spent in fear, and I am unhappy both at the table and in my bed. There is a way to create a long-term peace. If you are willing to give up your commands, I am ready to provide you with fine estates and beautiful dwellings where you may take your pleasure with singers and girls as your companions.
The generals realized that instead of a life of anxiety and struggle, Sung was offering them riches and security. In one stroke, Sung turned a pack of friendly wolves into a group of docile lambs, far from all power. In AD 971, King Liu of the southern Han finally surrendered to him after years of rebellion. To Liu's surprise, Sung gave him a rank in the imperial court and invited him to the palace to seal their newfound friendship with wine. Liu took the glass, fearing it contained poison.
Your subject's crime certainly deserves death. But I beg your majesty to spare your subject's life. Indeed, I dare not drink this wine.
There was no poison. From then on, Liu became his most trusted and loyal friend. A Chinese proverb compares friends to the jaws and teeth of a dangerous animal. If you're not careful, you will find them chewing you up.
Sung knew the jaws. He was passing between when he assumed the throne. His friends and the army would chew him up like meat, and if he somehow survived, his friends in the government would have him for supper. So, he bribed his fellow generals with splendid estates and kept them far away. This was a much better way to emasculate them than killing them.
Instead of relying on friends, Sung used his enemies one after the other, transforming them into far more reliable subjects. While a friend expects more and more favors, and seethes with jealousy, these former enemies expected nothing and got everything. A man will go to the ends of the earth for the man who has pardoned him. Because men are more ready to repay an injury than a benefit. Because gratitude is a burden, and revenge a pleasure. It is natural to want to employ your friends when you find yourself in times of need. The world is a harsh place, and your friends soften the harshness. Besides, you know them. Why depend on a stranger when you have a friend at hand? The problem is that you often do not know your friends as well as you imagine. Friends often agree on things in order to avoid an argument. They cover up their unpleasant qualities so as to not offend each other. They laugh extra hard at each other's jokes. Since honesty rarely strengthens friendship, you may never know how a friend truly feels. When you decide to hire a friend, you gradually discover the qualities he or she has kept hidden. The receipt of a favor can become oppressive. It means you have been chosen because you're a friend, not necessarily because you are deserving. The injury will come out slowly, and before you know it, your friendship fades. The more favors and gifts you supply to revive the friendship, the less gratitude you receive. The problem with using or hiring friends is that it will inevitably limit your power. The friend is rarely the one who is most able to help you, and in the end, skill and competence are far more important than friendly feelings. All working situations require a kind of distance between people. You are trying to work, not make friends. The key to power is the ability to judge who is best able to further your interests in all situations.
Keep friends for friendship, but work with the skilled and competent.
Your enemies, on the other hand, are an untapped gold mine that you must learn to exploit.
As Lincoln said, you destroy an enemy when you make a friend of him.
An enemy at our heels sharpens our wits, keeping us focused and alert. It is sometimes better to use enemies as enemies rather than transforming them into friends. Never let the presence of enemies upset or distress you. You are far better off with a declared opponent than not knowing where your real enemies lie. The man of power welcomes conflict, using enemies to enhance his reputation. Now, it's my assistant robot's turn. Let's welcome him.
Hello Andro bro. Let's start.
Although it is generally best not to mix work with friendship, there are times when a friend can be used to greater effect than an enemy. A man of power, for example, often has dirty work that has to be done. But for the sake of appearances, it is generally preferable to have other people do it for him. Friends often do this the best, since their affection for him makes them willing to take chances. Also, if your plans go awry for some reason, you can use a friend as a convenient scapegoat. This fall of the favorite was a trick often used by kings and sovereigns. They would let their closest friend at court take the fall for a mistake, since the public would not believe that they would deliberately sacrifice a friend for such a purpose. Of course, after you play that card, you have lost your friend forever. Nothing is stable in the realm of power, and even the closest of friends can be transformed into the worst.